Let's play Bible Trivia Jeopardy. Here are today's categories: Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, and the Crimson Thread. So as you can see, all of these are books of the Bible, and that's because currently right now we are in a Bible binge series with Jeopardy-style trivia. Meaning, for every book of the Bible, we're going to cover from Genesis to Revelation, and we are currently on game number 2 of a total of 13. So for each book, we're going to ask 5 questions that help you learn about each of those books. And then as part of every game, we're also going to have a category called the Crimson Thread, which will show how Jesus is woven into every book of the Bible. So let's go ahead and get started with Joshua, YouTube family. Let's grow. First category is Joshua, and the first question is: the massive walls of this ancient city collapsed after the Israelites marched around them and blew their trumpets. What is Jericho? The city was completely destroyed except for the house of Rahab the prostitute. Second question from this category: this woman helped the Israelite spies and was spared because she hung a scarlet cord from her window. Who is Rahab? Kind of alluded to it in the last question, but she was notably included in the genealogy of Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew. During a battle against the Amorites, Joshua commanded these 2 celestial bodies to stand still for a full day. What are the sun and the moon? This allowed the Israelites enough daylight to complete their victory over the 5 kings. This man's secret theft of a Babylonian robe and silver at Jericho brought the defeat and the death to the Israelite army at Ai. Who is Achan? His sin demonstrated that the disobedience of one individual could affect the entire community. In his final speech, Joshua challenged the people to choose this day whom you will serve, declaring that he and his house would serve this specific person. Who is the Lord? This covenant renewal took place at Shechem, where Joseph's bones were eventually buried. That takes us to our next book of the Bible, which is Judges. This Nazarite judge lost his supernatural strength after his hair was shorn by the treacherous Delilah. Who is Samson? He ultimately died while toppling the temple of the Philistine god Dagon. As the only female judge mentioned in the book, she held court under a palm tree and helped lead Israel to victory. Who is Deborah? She summoned the commander Barak to lead the charge against the Canaanite general Sisera. God reduced this man's army from 32,000 down to just 300 men who lapped water like dogs. Who is Gideon? They defeated the Midianites using only trumpets, empty jars, and torches. This judge made a rash vow to sacrifice whatever first came out of his house, resulting in the loss of his only daughter. Who is Jephthah? His story is often cited as a warning against making impulsive or foolish oaths to God. This left-handed judge delivered Israel from the Moabites by assassinating the incredibly obese King Eglon. Who is Ehud? He hid a double-edged dagger under his garment on his right thigh to bypass the guards. All right, that ends the book of Judges and takes us into the book of Ruth. This Moabitess famously told her mother-in-law, Naomi, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay." Who is the person of the book herself? Ruth. She was the great-grandmother of King David and is featured in the lineage of Jesus. This wealthy landowner and kinsman redeemer allowed Ruth to glean in his fields during the barley harvest. Who is Boaz? Their marriage served to restore the family line and inheritance of Naomi's deceased husband. After losing her husband and both sons, Naomi asked to be called by this name, which means bitter. What is Mara? She felt the Almighty had dealt very bitterly with her before the restoration found in Boaz. $400 question from the book of Ruth. In this era, a man confirmed a contract of redemption or exchange by removing this item and giving it to another. What is a sandal? This legal custom finalized the transfer of property and the obligation to marry Ruth. This son born to Boaz and Ruth became the father of Jesse, who was later the father of David. Who is Obed? That was David's grandpa. The neighbors rejoiced, saying that a son had been born to Naomi to sustain her in her old age. That takes us to the first book of Samuel. First question here: armed only with a sling and 5 smooth stones, this shepherd boy felled the Philistine giant Goliath. Who is David? He refused the armor of King Saul, trusting instead in the name of the Lord of hosts. After years of barrenness and fervent prayer at the tabernacle, this woman gave birth to the prophet Samuel. Who is Hannah? She dedicated the child to the Lord, leaving him to serve under Eli the priest. This tall Benjamite was anointed as the first king of Israel after the people demanded a monarch to lead them. Who is Saul? Though he started with humility, his reign was marked by disobedience and spiritual decline. This high priest and judge fell backward off his seat and died after hearing the ark of God had been captured. Who is Eli? He had failed to restrain the wickedness of his 2 sons. Last question from the book of 1 Samuel. In a desperate attempt to hear from God, King Saul visited this woman at Endor to conjure the spirit of Samuel. Who is the witch of Endor, or the medium? This act of necromancy was strictly forbidden by the law of Moses and signaled Saul's total downfall. That takes us to the second book of Samuel. First question: while his army was at war, King David committed adultery with this woman, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. Who is Bathsheba? The prophet Nathan later confronted David about this sin, using a parable about a rich man and a lamb. During a rebellion against his father David, this man's long hair got caught in the branches of an oak tree. Who is Absalom? Despite David's orders to spare him, Joab executed him while he hung helpless from the tree. To celebrate the return of the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, King David performed this act with all his might. What is dancing? His wife, Michal, despised him in her heart for what she perceived as undignified behavior. David showed the kindness of God to this lame son of Jonathan by restoring his lands and feeding him at the royal table. Who is Mephibosheth? He was only 5 years old when he was dropped by his nurse, causing his lifelong disability. Last question from the second book of Samuel. David brought a plague upon Israel after he insisted on conducting this prohibited count of the fighting men. What is a census? The king ultimately chose to fall into the hands of the Lord's mercy rather than the hands of men. And that takes us to the next category, the crimson thread. Now, what's special about this category is all the correct answers will be one of the 5 books that we just discussed, and it's talking about how Jesus is woven into them. Let's go ahead and start with question number 1. In this book, Jesus is the ultimate realization of the promise that David's throne and kingdom would be established forever. What is 2 Samuel? God's covenant with David in 2 Samuel 7 guarantees an eternal kingdom. Since David's earthly line fell, this is only fulfilled eternally through Jesus. In this book, Jesus is the true anointed one, also known as Messiah, praised by Hannah, and the fulfillment of the Davidic covenant. And that would be what is 1 Samuel. Hannah's prayer in 1 Samuel 2 is the first time the word Messiah, anointed, is used for a king, pointing directly to David's ultimate descendant. $300 question from the Crimson Thread. In this book, Jesus is the true, uncorrupted deliverer who rescues his unfaithful people from the cycle of sin and oppression. What is Judges? While human judges continually failed and died, Jesus serves as the eternal, righteous judge who breaks the cycle of sin forever. In this book, Jesus appears as the captain of the host of the Lord, standing with a drawn sword to lead his people to victory. What is Joshua? This pre-incarnate appearance of Christ in Joshua 5 demonstrates that Jesus is the true leader of our spiritual warfare. And last question from this category, the Crimson Thread. In this book, Jesus is the wealthy, willing, and worthy relative who redeems our lost inheritance and takes us as his bride. That would be, what is the book of Ruth? Boaz acts as a perfect legal type of Christ. By law, a kinsman redeemer had to be related by blood, have the financial means, and be willing to redeem. All right, I hope that you enjoyed that category of how Jesus is woven into every one of those 5 books that we discussed, as well as the ones previously starting from Genesis. That's going to go ahead and take us to Final Jeopardy, where our category is going to be left-handed deliverance. So as you think about how much you would want to wage on this, if you're keeping score, go ahead and pause if you need more time, but we're going to go ahead and start continuing right now. God raised up this left-handed Benjamite judge to deliver Israel by concealing a double-edged dagger on his right thigh to assassinate King Eglon? Let's see what you got. And the answer here is, who is Ehud? So if you remember from when we covered the book of Judges, this specific answer was given. So hopefully you're able to get that right. Because Benjamin means son of my right hand, the fact that Ehud was left-handed is a striking historical and linguistic detail in the text. All right. I truly hope that you enjoyed this second game of our Bible Binge series. If you're ready to go ahead and jump immediately into the next one, then you can go ahead and do so by clicking on the link on the left. If you want to take a little break, I highly encourage you to watch What is the Purpose of Life, where I share with you a way to share the gospel with friends and family members, using just an arrow and a glass of water. Different way the gospel has been shared that you can share with your friends and family. If you want to go ahead and check out the full playlist of this Bible Binge series of Bible Jeopardy, then go ahead and check out this link right here where you can play catch up or even jump ahead if you choose, if those games are available. As always, I want to thank you for playing along. Be sure to leave a comment on anything that you can do to encourage other people who are watching, or even myself. It does keep me going, making these videos. If you want to check out more fun ways to engage in God's Word, you can do so at activityministry.com, where I have plenty of ways for you to dive in and draw closer to God so that He may get all the glory. And until next time, be blessed, be a blessing. I be out. Whoop.